We're out of the group stage at Euro 2024, on to knockout round football. And we're breaking it all down with at least one pick per game in the round of 16 at Euro 2024. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. We survived the group stage, a lot of football to consume, a lot of bets were placed. And now all of a sudden we have one side of the bracket where the powerhouse sides, they're all there. They're all going to be going head to head against one another. And the other side, you have England. Jake, what do you make of what we've experienced thus far at Euro 2024?
I mean, it's been a real mixed bag, hasn't it? We've had some cracking games, but we've also had some real dull, well, mainly involving England matches. I mean, the group in England, I think it was at Group C, actually went down as the joint lowest scoring group in Euros history, which, yeah, there's a title for you. Well done, guys. And we were actually a Serbia goal against England away from all teams finishing on 3 points with 3 draws, and it would have been decided on disciplinary record as to who went through, which, imagine the drama. That would have been really, really good. But yeah, it's actually worked out really favourably for England, as you mentioned. They get a really kind draw on paper. It's never as easy as that, is it? But yeah, I think the entire nation was just looking at it last night and going, we're recording this on Thursday, the 27th, but they were all looking on Wednesday night and going, well, if Georgia or Turkey win, we'll get Slovakia instead of the Netherlands. That sounds really nice. And it ended up being Georgia, causing a big surprise. So yeah, England play Slovakia, then the winner of Switzerland, Italy, if they get that far, and either Turkey, Austria, Netherlands, or Romania in the semi-final. I mean, that looks very favourable, especially when we flip it to the other side.
From a betting perspective and the markets, what worked for you? What didn't play through the group stage?
Yeah, like I say, it was just really weird for goals. You had some games, especially where there was a lot riding on them, where both teams needed to win, that were just nothingness. I mean, the Belgium-Ukraine game springs to mind, where Ukraine had to win, and they barely laid a glove on Belgium, and likewise. That was a really strange occurrence. I actually felt that quite a lot of those games were really a lot lower scoring than I expected. I thought it'd be 2 teams going at it from the first minute, but it wasn't. It was more of a biding the time than trying to almost just a bit of chaos at the last 10 minutes. Like Scotland-Hungary was very much like that, where there was nothing happening. Then all of a sudden, 10 minutes, they just decided to throw the kitchen sink at each other. Yeah, not enough of that. It'd be interesting to see if that carries on into the knockouts, if that kind of low scoring nature does continue. I definitely will be opposing goals with certain teams anyway.
Yeah. Congratulations. The Swiss, as you predicted, did well enough to advance from Group A. We both backed Austria to make some noise in this tournament, and they've set themselves up. And they're playing maybe the best, at least aesthetically pleasing football to watch as well. Ralf Rangnick has his team playing. Those were a couple really good plays. The under for me on Scotland points, on Serbia points, both of them worked out well. And I hinted, and you turned up your nose at it, potentially making a Georgia to get out of the group play. And look at that. The biggest surprise of all is Georgia's moved on to the knockout round of this tournament. Brilliant stuff. And they played some brilliant, progressive, aggressive, and really thrilling football to watch as well. And you like when teams like that get rewarded for being a little bit more adventurous.
100%, yeah. And it wasn't just, they weren't, it came down to the last game. They had to be a good Portugal team. They made a lot of changes, granted, but still a very good team. And they got the job done. And they did it pretty comfortably as well. So, yeah, they definitely surprised me. I hold my hands up and got them wrong. I thought they'd be finishing bottom of that group. I think if Portugal hadn't already won the group and qualified, they probably would have finished bottom of that group. But yeah, they find themselves in the round of 16, first time in their history. The only problem is they're playing against a Spain team that absolutely hammered them in qualifying. 7-1 in Georgia, 3-1 in Spain. So be interesting to see if they can keep it a little bit closer this time.
I came away with a little bit of a loss after the group stage, and it was predicated on 2 things. Croatia conceding twice late, once against Albania, once against Italy. I had them to win the group as like a little bit of a cheeky play because I thought they were right in that. It wasn't that play, but just my futures play, and Croatia within the game plays ended up losing me some profit, as well as Ukraine. I mean, I had this team advancing, potentially even winning Group E, and they actually technically finished tied for first in the group. It was goal differential that sees them dumped out of the tournament on 4 points. It's the Croatian and the Ukrainian story that caught up with me. Any bad beats for you, or how did things play out in terms of your plays through the group stage?
Yeah, the Ukraine one did me as well. I had them dual forecast with Belgium. I mean, that wasn't really close when you looked at the final table, but yeah, some good ones. Obviously, run Austria point line in the group. Under Poland point line was a nice one. They just
Yeah,
about
had
squeaked
that one
in.
too.
Spain to win the group. I thought they were the class of that group, and that proved the case. And yeah, annoyingly, Switzerland conceded in the very last minute. That was my bad beat against Germany. Not only would it have seen Switzerland win the group, but it would have put Germany under 6.5 points, which is what I'd backed. So missed out by half a point on that one. But yeah, overall, it's been a pretty good tournament for profit. The first round of matches was a bit of a struggle, I'll be honest, until you got a feel for the teams, and then
Yeah.
slowly but surely the profit started to come. So hopefully we can take what we've learned and what we've seen into the knockout rounds. Although it is more of a lottery, isn't it, when you get to the knockout rounds with extreme variance as we've seen in recent tournaments.
Yeah, the first round of games did me in as well. I rebounded nicely. The most compelling game before we move on, or the compelling games, was what played out between Romania and Slovakia and Belgium and Ukraine from a market perspective. Because based upon the standing of Slovakia, Romania heading to that final game, the draw market was absolutely hammered. It ended up playing, but well below what you could have got initially once the markets opened up, Jake. That was the most fascinating thing that happened over the course of the group stage.
It was, yeah. We'd not really. We had one in the last Euros. It was exactly the same. It was Ukraine versus Austria, and the draw went off at plus 110, I believe it was. Austria actually won that game, so they went out there and they won that game. They dominated Ukraine. It was only 1-0, but it was a 1-0 massacre. This time was a little bit different. It was. I was watching the game. I was on the draw. I got it at plus 200. Literally, as soon as Romania Belgium finished, I looked up the market and I backed it because I knew exactly what was happening. And yeah, as soon as it got to 60 minutes, I was very comfortable it was going to win because both teams just kind of took the foot off the gas. It wasn't quite training ground stuff, passing it around in the centre circle, but yeah, it was very very much like that. Yeah, fascinating to see the market just disappear because, yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
plus 200, then it was into plus 160, and then before you know it, you're close to plus 100 mark for a draw. And you're just hoping that Romania don't or Slovakia don't think, oh, actually, we might fancy topping this group and take a few chances. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we have anything in the next tournament as well. I do think it's due to the fact that this third place rule is coming, that we've got more teams at the tournament. A third place team can qualify, which means that these smaller nations that don't usually get to the knockout round are just happy to get there. It doesn't matter whether they finish first, second, or third. They're very much just happy to get to the dance.
Yeah, the Romania Slovakia game ended up on Pinnacle, closing at about one plus 112, plus 115. So still at a plus number. And for all the critics of the third place teams going on, I thought it was compelling right to the end because you simply didn't know who was going to play who, and things changed up until the final whistles in Group F. So here we go. Let's move on to the knockout phase. We'll look into some future plays in a few moments. But let's try to do this. At least one pick per match of the 8 that would be played out over the course of the next 4 days. And we'll go sequentially. And we'll start off with Switzerland and Italy. Switzerland advanced second place from Group A, then ended up beating Hungary, which really set the tone 3-1. Drawing Scotland, then drawing Germany back-to-back draws, finishing the group on 5 points. Italy survived by the hair on their chin with the late equalizer against Croatia to come away with a 1-1 draw and moving on after losing to Spain 1-0 and beating Albania after conceding the first minute of that match. 2-1 was the final. Both teams have players suspended. Widmer for Switzerland suspended for this one. Calafiori is being excellent. Maybe Italy's best player is going to be out for this match as well. Head to head, Italy haven't lost to Switzerland in their last 8. In fact, Switzerland hasn't beat Italy since 14.54. The markets are closing with the Italians as being a favorite to come into this game. What do you make of that? And where are you looking in terms of making a play in this game?
Yeah, I'm definitely just going to keep riding the Swiss bandwagon. I was hot on them pre-tournament. I thought that their results in qualifying were masking some good performance data, and it's proved to be the case. They were very good against Hungary. They were the better team for me against Scotland, and obviously they came within a few minutes of knocking Germany off that top spot. Italy, I've been very underwhelmed with them, to be honest. The performances have been really, really poor. They were absolutely schooled by Spain. I thought they were comfortably second best against Croatia for about 80 minutes, and then just for some bizarre reason, the Croatian manager decided to take all of his best players off. He got Modric and Kramaric, players who are good at keeping the ball, sat on the bench, and that just kind of meant that Italy, even though they were already in last chance saloon, it just made it a little bit easier for them to win the ball back and go again. But I've not been at all impressed with Italy, so I'll definitely be looking to back Switzerland. I'll back them in just the match market, to be honest, plus a quarter at minus 117. That looks a really good play for me. I probably have these two a little bit closer in terms of the match markets. Switzerland are plus 249 on the money line. I would make them a little bit closer than that. So just giving me a quarter of a goal means that, if it ends up in a draw, we get a half win. I'm more than happy for that to be the case.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can get Swiss to qualify at plus 123 if you like. Penalties are the one that I don't want to touch when it comes to the potential of this game. Donnarumma is the X factor in that. So like you, I'm going to avoid the handicap, but I'll play the Switzerland draw no bet, pick 'em at plus 127. That's the best market for me because I can see them winning 1-0 in 90 minutes. It won't be a high scoring game. The total is set at 2. Even money for the over, minus 110 for the under. These two teams play under. Switzerland under in 8 of their last 10. Italy under in 5 of their last 6. It's just, do I want to play under 2? I'd rather just bank on Switzerland keeping it close. And if they pull out a 1-0 over 90 minutes, then that's great. If not, I'll just take my money back and move on from there. I don't really have too much to say about this. I just think the wrong team's favored in this one, quite frankly. This Italian side really struggled to create, just a 0.25 XG against Spain. Even against Croatia, they were second best by some margin in that game as well. So I just don't see any reason to back Italy other than the fact that they've done it in the past. And that's not good enough for me in this competition. So 2 pro Switzerland plays to get things
I've won you
kick-started.
over.
Yeah, you have. I was skeptical, but I've been converted. Germany and Denmark, which might be a tricky enough game for Germany. We'll see how it plays out. Germany, no losses in their last 7 overall. They won with relative ease. They were tested in their last game against Switzerland, but really had established themselves at the top of Group A to begin with. Denmark in the lowest scoring group in Group C managed to come away finishing good enough in terms of being able to advance there. 1-1 draws, a 1-1 draw against Slovenia, 1-1 draw against England, and a goalless draw against Serbia. Draws across the board. However, Denmark hasn't lost in their last 7, and they played to the under 2.5 in 6 of their last 8. There are suspensions for both teams, and notable ones. The center back Ta suspended for Germany. Hjulmand, the midfielder that scored the goal against England, a really good strike as well. Really good central midfield player, will be suspended for Denmark. Germany haven't lost to Denmark in their last 4, but they did play to back-to-back 1-1 draws in friendlies back in 2021, and Germany did beat Denmark 2-1 at Euro 2012 to win the respective groups. So there's history in this competition as well. Germany have impressed. They're coming off at minus 156 to win the game outright, to qualify minus 345, to qualify plus 295. The handicap is set at 0.75, and the Denmark side of things is juiced a little bit at plus 111. We'll see if that line continues to shift. How do you handicap this game? Because I don't think it's a game that Germany would necessarily fancy, playing against a really compact and really strong defensive Denmark side. What do you make of this?
Yeah, this is a very difficult game to kind of find something in, if I'm being honest, because Denmark, while they have looked defensively fairly strong, they played. I don't know that group was just turgid in terms of chances created with England, Serbia, and Slovenia. So yeah, I think Germany have got a little bit too much for them. I do expect Germany to qualify. I don't think there's much value in the price. Likewise, in the handicap, Germany are a three-quarter, minus three-quarter favourites, which I probably would look to leave alone. My only my only question marks around Germany are that they were tested against a very well organised Switzerland. Like Switzerland, I imagine Denmark are going to play in exactly the same way. It's a
Yeah.
similar formation. It's a back three. They're going to be compact. Kumland's not playing Isablo because he's the out and out holding defensive midfielder. Højbjerg actually gets box to box in this Denmark team and supports the forward players. So that'll be interesting to see who slots in there and fills in. But yeah, this could be a trickier game than Germany perhaps expect. I'm going to go with no bet. I was leaning towards looking at both teams to score, but given how Denmark have attacked in the group stage, struggled to create chances. I know they had a lot of shots on target against England, but they were all from long distance, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was similar here. So yeah, I am going to just go with no bet on this one and just kind of have a little watching brief and just get a gauge for what the teams are capable of.
Well, I promise to pick for match per match, and I will not let you down. The one thing Germany did was they conceded some chances. Hungary should have really scored against them in their 2-0 victory. They did concede against Scotland, considering they gave up no chances, and they conceded to Switzerland as well. I think Denmark, in a game like this, will have their chances. It's just about taking them. Rasmus Højlund has been a non-factor. Perhaps this is a game where he gets a little bit more involved. And I think that based upon the defensive style was predicated on how the group played out in Group C for Denmark. So the best play that I can find is both teams to score yes at plus 112. That's a decent enough number for me to get behind a 1-1, something like that. Wouldn't surprise me through 90 minutes. Germany may be able to pull this out, but I just don't think it's going to come easy. Head to head, Germany no clean sheets against Denmark in 5. Denmark no clean sheets against Germany in 4. So there has been some goals in this fixture, and I'm going to back on that happening again. So both teams to score yes at plus 112 on Pinnacle is my play for this game. England, what to inspect as they take on Slovakia in a game that I feel, Jake, I've watched like on repeat so many times before. England, Slovakia, it's a familiar one. England dire, yet pretty decent enough defensively. Only scored 2 goals over the course of the group stage, but only conceded 1, and that was a strike from distance against Denmark. No losses in 3. They played to the under 2.5 in 4 of 5 as well. And they take on a Slovakian side that ended up beating Belgium 1-0 to kick off the group, then fell to Ukraine before playing to what was a predictable but pretty entertaining 1-1 draw against Romania to finish the group. They've been the first team to score in their last 5 games, and they've been the first half winner in 4 of their last 5 as well. England, no losses against Slovakia in their last 6 meetings, and they've played England, I should say, won 2-1 and 1-0 during the 2018 World Cup qualifiers, and they also played to a goalless draw at Euro 2016. England's coming off at minus 229 to win this. The handicap, the line is set at 1.25 for this game, and the total at 2.25. Those aforementioned numbers, the latter two seem a little bit high in terms of the goal total, and maybe a little bit out of whack for the handicap as well. What do you make of this game? Like England, of course, the players on paper good enough to back here, but is the team as a collective convincing enough to back them at any price that's on the market right now?
No, not right now. We need to see a better performance before we can do that at this kind of price. I do expect them to qualify. I think they'll have too much for Slovakia if it goes to extra time. I think they'll have too much. But yeah, I mean, the bet that's just jumping off the page is just the under 2.25. It's a plus number as well, plus 102. I mean, England, as we've said, they've struggled for attacking fluidity. They've played against 3 teams that have been very, very sensible in a mid to deep block. I think Denmark in particular pressed quite high. I don't expect Slovakia to do that, but Slovenia definitely showed Slovakia the blueprint as to how to frustrate England. And they're going to do exactly the same thing. We saw them do it to Belgium, hit them on the counter attack with a sucker punch. So yeah, under for me is the bet. I think if either team wins, it's going to be a 1-0. Just to touch on England's defensive numbers, they've been the best defensive team in the entire tournament so far, according to expected goals. Just one expected goal conceded across 3 matches, which is pretty remarkable. And I know they conceded 1 goal. It was a long-range strike, but they've basically kept everybody at arm's length. So for me, this game is just a question of can England score? And if they do, will they score 2, 3, 4? Probably not. I think one's going to be more than enough. And you know what? Over here in England, everyone's up in arms about the way in which England are playing, the fact that they're so defensive minded. They've got all this attacking talent, and they're not getting the best out of it. But at the end of the day, like defense wins your tournaments. Like no one goes through a tournament winning 3-2, 4-2 every game because it's just the variance is just not going to be on your side. Whereas at least if you've got a very solid defensive foundation, the chances of you progressing is much much higher. And that's ultimately what England have got, whether people like it or not.
Yep. Look, you may be right about that. They're borderline unwatchable because of the lack of balance or game plan in this team. I mean, I don't rate Southgate. That's fine. They may be able to, based on the draw, continue to advance. But the fact that Harry Kane dropped so deep to get involved in the play, yet you have no players that can then extend or stretch the play playing over the top. I mean, that's the biggest problem. It's not whether Trent Alexander-Arnold or Conor Gallagher plays at the middle of the park. It's like, how do you take advantage of you have this incredible talent like Harry Kane leading the line, but he plays in a much different way? For me, you have to play him in a 2 or have players that can stretch the field. That isn't Foden. That isn't Saka. And that is where the bulk of their problems come from. Do I think that Southgate is going to change things right now? No, I don't. So that's why I have one of 2 plays that I consider backing in this game. Slovakia on the handicap at -110. That's a decent enough number for me because I'm with you. I think the game is going to be decided by a goal. And maybe the play I like even more because I do think that England are the better team and they're the side that was probably more likely to come away with a 1-0. England to win plus total goals under 2.5 at +215. That seems to be the way that I would edge things. And at +215, it's worth the chance for me. No matter what, the unders, low scoring game, Slovakia to keep it close. I subscribe to all of that. So that's my take there. So some plays to ponder and think about. Spain and Georgia. Here we go. Who would have expected this one? Spain went on to win their group with relative ease, 3 games, 3 wins. They haven't lost in 6 in all competitions now. No goals conceded over the course of those 3 games as well. Georgia, really the story of the tournament, ended up beating Portugal 2-0, and that it was a well-rotated Portugal side, but they were full value. The way that they played and managed to score 2 goals, and they're tricky. They scored in each and every game of the group stage as well. Head-to-head, Spain have won 4 straight against Georgia, including a 3-1 win and a 7-1 win in qualifying. World Cup qualifying as well in 2021, a 4-0 win and a 2-1 win, although Georgia did beat Spain 1-0 in a friendly back in 2016. So they played a lot of games against one another. Spain, a significant favorite with good reason. They've looked really strong in this tournament. -475. If you want and you think that Georgia have a chance to qualify, +713 on Pinnacle is the number. The total set at 2.75, the spread at 1.75. Do Georgia have a chance here whatsoever? Is it silly for me to even ask that question, Jake? Or is Spain just far better, too much of a jump up in terms of competition for Georgia here in the knockout phase?
I want to say the latter, but they proved me wrong in the group stage, so I don't want to completely write them off. I do think this is a completely different kettle of fish, though. The way in which Spain dominate the ball, the way in which they look after the ball means that your counter-attacking chances are limited, and that's what Georgia feed upon, basically, to get anything going in attack. Defensively, they've been the worst team according to expected goals data at the tournament. They've conceded over 8 expected goals in 3 matches. If that continues, then they're going to need another heroic goalkeeping performance to give them any chance whatsoever. But looking at all the lines, I'm just got no bet here. I'm happy to leave this one alone and just leave it to you, mate. Just keep backing you in the corner. One bet for every game. Go on.
Over, over, based upon that. I mean, the expected goals against for Georgia 2.6 against Turkey, 3.16 against Czech, 1.55 against Portugal. They lost in each and every one of them. I think the Spanish attack over 2 against Croatia, over 2 against Italy. I mean, I just, if Georgia's going to be successful in this game, they need to score again and they need to be aggressive from an attacking perspective. And if they go down, they're going to have to take some risks. So this is one of the few games where I'll back the over 2.75 at minus 115. France and Belgium, the marquee fixture of the round of 16. That's the thing, the way the draw played out, like the big dogs at least avoided themselves in this round of the competition. They'll come in the quarterfinal round. But France and Belgium is the marquee fixture. France not winning their group. That's a big surprise, especially after winning their first game over Austria 1-0. Back-to-back draws, and Austria went and took that group. France, no losses in 6 overall, and they played to the under 2.5 in 4 of 5. Belgium, sluggish. I mean, their fans, much like the English, just weren't happy with the way that their team played throughout the group. We're on 4 points. They beat Romania, but lost to Slovakia and played to a goalless draw against Ukraine, where the result really could have gone against them in that game if you were watching. Belgium, no clean sheet in 3 against France in the head-to-head. France did beat Belgium 3-2 in the 2021 Nations League. And in the World Cup semifinal in 2018, it was France prevailing 1-0 in that match as well. France are the favorites coming into this one to win the match outright at minus 108 to qualify, minus 232 for Belgium to qualify, plus 202. This is another tricky game to prognosticate because France haven't been at their best, and most certainly Belgium haven't been either. Which team do you believe is more suited or in a better position to turn things on and turn things up here come the knockout phase?
You have to say France, given the pedigree of their players, the fact that they've done it before. It very recently got to the final of the World Cup. But I mean, I've not been massively like everyone's been unimpressed with Belgium. Like I think they've looked okay. They've had moments. They've been in a very difficult group where I mean I say difficult because the style that teams that they're playing against really doesn't suit them at all. They've not had the opportunity to get on the ball in space. I thought they defended well. That was my main concern heading into the tournament was the defence. I think they've looked fairly solid. I know they've not been tested to this level just yet. But yeah, I give them a fighting chance of causing an upset here, given what we've seen from France as well. They've not really been at it fully. And at the same token, France have been in a group with 3 teams that press pretty aggressively, and Belgium, from what I've seen from them, don't do that. So they might have a little bit more time on the ball to be able to make things happen. Again, we've got a very low goal total. We're at 2.25. I would absolutely be backing that. That's the bet I'm going to be taking. It's a minus 120. When you get to knockout rounds, generally things do get a lot cagier, especially when you get a big nation against a big nation very early on, or a good nation at least. And the fact that both defenses have looked fairly solid so far is definitely has me leaning towards the under. And again, I just think 1 goal is probably going to be enough for either team.
No.
And obviously we've got a 1-1 on side there. If we do, we get a half a win. That's just going to be my kind of play. It really is taking the unders because everything we've seen in the group stage has been, especially from these particular big nations, has been very low scoring, very cagey in which the way in which they've approached games. And I don't see a reason why that should change. If anything, it should get more cagey because any mistake could cost you the tournament.
I'm a little bit bitter when it comes to Belgium, to be honest with you, because it's the worst possible draw for our future bet, Lukaku to win the Golden Boot. And the fact that he's had so many goals chalked off, including one where it's like toenail was offside, like the Openda handball, just it's done me in. And now they play France in this game. I fail to understand or see a path where a very weak Belgium back four, they look vulnerable every game they played. Even Romania had chances against them. How they're going to be able to deal with Mbappe. And Mbappe's come back and played with a game with the mask on after suffering the injury in the first game. I think that changed things so much for this team because they rely on Mbappe to be their focal point. And that's where I think it's going to be definitive. It's matchup oriented, matchup based. I think Trossard has had just an absolute awful tournament for Belgium. I can't see them doing enough to break down the French back line, but I can see Mbappe being the difference maker in this game. France to win at minus 108 is my play here. Portugal, Slovenia, a team in Slovenia that did beat Portugal back in a friendly in March. 2-0 was the final, and Portugal coming off a loss to Georgia. However, they punched their ticket to the knockout phase before the ball was even kicked, and Roberto Martinez decided to rotate his side. Not entirely, as for some reason Cristiano Ronaldo started that game. So Portugal, winners of their group, take on Slovenia, who continue to impress. No losses in their last 9 games. However, 3 straight draws through the group stage in Group C and no wins in 4 overall. Just you wonder about what they have just in terms of attack if they need a goal in a game. That win in the friendly, Portugal over Slovenia, broke a streak of 11 wins in a row for Portugal. There was no Bruno Fernandes or Bernardo Silva in that game either, much like no Bruno, no Bernardo in the game against Georgia as well. It seems to be a pretty good draw here, at least initially for Portugal, although the future prospects have been dealt a blow as they'll play the winner of the France-Belgium game. But what about this one? Should they be able to advance past Slovenia quite easily here? What do you make of this tie?
Yeah, I think that they'll be able to get past quite easily. Just think that obviously Slovenia they had an interesting group with England, Denmark, sides that especially England have really struggled to find that creative force in the middle of the park, and Portugal just don't have that problem at all. I mean, anyone who watched them in the first 2 games, I know they were a little bit sluggish out of the box against Czechia, but they finished really strong and were creating good chances against a very deep line. So I think that Portugal will win this quite comfortably. I'll. It's just trying to find a way to back them, really. Do we trust them enough at the back to be able to keep a clean sheet? Winter nils at plus 106. That definitely could be an angle in. Portugal winning under at 2.5 is plus 223. I think it's going to be a low scoring win. That's probably the way I'd be leaning, is a low scoring win at plus 225. I just don't think Slovenia will be able to cause too many problems at all. And that is probably a bit safer than the handicap because, again, 1 goal is probably enough for Portugal.
Yeah, it's the Portugal win to nil at plus 106. That is my play in this one. It's going to be close. It's going to be cagey. Beyond Sesko, you wonder where the goals are going to come from. Jans is suspended, the left back for Slovenia as well. He's been a good player for them in this tournament. I think Portugal are the favorites to win it. They haven't been free-flowing in attack, have they? But Fernandez is the key to this Portugal side and being able to open up a stubborn defensive team. And I think he'll be able to do just about enough. Portugal win to nil at plus 106. Romania and the Netherlands. Romania somehow won their group, and based on the way that the final games of the group stage played out, the Netherlands went from potentially playing England to playing Romania, which will be a big time relief to the great Dutch support and Ronald Koeman. Romania, 3-0 victory over Ukraine set the tone, allowing them to win their group on goal aggregate. However, they have played to the under 2.5 in 4 of 5. That win over Ukraine is the exception to the rule. Banku is suspended for this game as well. The Netherlands lost to Austria 3-2 in that final game, although a decent XG had more expected goals in that game against Austria, but somehow conceded 3 to the Austrians. They did beat Poland 2-1 to open their tournament. They played to over 2.5. Interesting, because they have so many good defensive players in 7 of their last 8 games. Head-to-head, Netherlands have won 4 in a row over Romania, and they've won their last 4 of those dating back to 2008 by the score of 2-0, 4-1, 4-0, and 3-0. This is the best possible draw for me for the Netherlands. Like, I know England's being regarded to have a wide open, play towards going deep in this tournament. I think it suits the Dutch really well, and I think they play the weakest of all sides here to kick off the knockout phase. What do you make of this tie? What do you make of Netherlands and their chances of dispatching what's being, a Romanian side that's been able to punch above their weight?
Yeah, I mean, if you've liked what you've seen from the Netherlands, then now's the time to back them in the future market for that exact reason. Yeah, I again really struggled to find anything I like in this, and to be honest, it's been because of the draw and the way it's worked out. We've got so many lopsided betting heats where you've got a really strong favourite, which means it's very difficult to find some really strong value that you like. Because you're chancing handicaps in games that could potentially be low scoring, or you're chancing the win in the low score when a game could easily run away. Netherlands could run away with this, win 3 or 4-0, given the goal for equality. Um, so yeah, for me, the best thing to do is rather than backing Netherlands in this game is to, if you like them, is to back them to win the whole tournament now at their prices. Personally, I've not seen enough from them to think that they can go all the way. I think there's some serious issues, especially in that midfield. I think they'll get past Romania though, but no bet in the game for me.
Both teams to score no and under 2.5. I just don't think that Romania will be able to score against the Netherlands. Plus 125, that's my play. Yeah, straightforward. Romania, I just don't think can score in this game, and I think that it'll remain relatively low scoring. A 2-0 victory for Netherlands seems about right. Romania being decent enough defensively as well. I think it'll test the Netherlands that way, but going the other way, I just don't think they have enough in attack. Finally, it's Austria and Turkey. Austria went on to win what looked to be the best group of the tournament with France and the Netherlands and Poland. And Turkey, I mean, it's been a wild group stage for Turkey. The last game, tons of cards. They end up beating Georgia to thrilling 3-1 win. They get pasted by Portugal. Then a dramatic 2-1 victory over 10-man Czechia as well. Çalhanoğlu and Akaydin are both suspended for Turkey in this game. Çalhanoğlu is a big one. Scored a great goal against Czechia and is really the pulse in that Turkey midfield. Turkey, no clean sheets in their last 3 head-to-head with Austria. Austria did beat Turkey 6-1 back in March. There were 3 penalty goals scored in that match as well. This could be the most exciting game that's going to be played over the knockout, the round of 16. Is there a play to be made in this one? Looks like this one could provide more than enough juice on a number of different fronts.
Yeah, I just like the look of Austria to win personally. I think it'll be very. Turkey have just been such a funny team to watch. I mean, the first game they looked really good against Georgia at times. The second game they were completely outclassed by Portugal. And then the third game they should have been comfortably ahead and decided to just let 10 men hang around and nearly get a winner themselves. So, yeah, I think Austria have shown more than enough to think that we should be backing them at this kind of price to win the game. They, they were an own goal away from getting a draw with France, as well as beating the Netherlands in their group stage. So, yeah, I'd see no reason not to back Austria at minus 110 just to win the match in 90 minutes. Turkey's defence has been exceptionally vulnerable all the way through. So, yeah, I'm more than happy just to wade in on Austria. Obviously, we're on them to reach the quarters. So, if anybody who wants to hedge, this is the time to do it because you're getting a decent price on Turkey to qualify. But I'd be very surprised if Austria don't make it through.
Yeah, there's been criticism of the team selection back home from the Turkish support. I just think they're in over their head in this game. They look all over the place defensively. They don't have a firm or solid option at goalkeeper as well. And the way that this Austrian team presses and gets after you, I think this is a recipe for disaster for Turkey. This might be the worst opponent. I do like Austria to win at that same price. I would back the over 2.5 at minus 103 because I think that by the nature of the way that these two teams play, it's going to be wide open. There will be more chances compared to the other round of 16 games. And the ultimate play for this one, both teams to score yes and Austria to win at plus 318. That might be the best play to make the round of 16 at plus 318. Jake, that's enough juice for me to back that one. Turkey looked solid from an attacking perspective. It's just their defensive play is just all over the shop. So yeah, that's maybe my favorite play. Austria to win, both teams to score yes at plus 318 on Pinnacle. Very quickly before we wrap up, are there any future bets to be made just in terms of the outright market? England, based upon the draw, is odds on to win it. Is there a team that you're willing to back, even if it means running the gauntlet on the top half of the bracket?
No, not at all. The most impressive team so far has arguably been Spain, and they've moved into second favourites actually on the market. Partly because they've got Georgia in the round of 16, but even so, I mean they're going to have to play Germany and then one of France and Portugal just to get to the final. And at that number plus 450, I'm more than happy to just leave them alone, even though they have looked pretty good. Because as we saw last time at the Euros, Spain were arguably the best team at that tournament, and then they were knocked out on penalties by Italy. So anything can happen when you get to knockouts. Yeah, the price about England, you're going to laugh, but it probably is value at plus 350. You are relying on things clicking, but the draw looks very kind, and they have the capabilities. They've shown that the last Euros and the World Cup prior. So probably are the value at the top of the market, even though they are quite a short price. And then just scrolling a bit further down, I don't want to go back in on Austria. We backed them. I backed them at plus 6,600 pre-tournament. They're now plus 1,600. So there's no reason for me to go back in on them. Of anybody outsider to potentially look to make a run, I would probably look at Switzerland at plus 3,300. I know that they'll probably play England if they get through in the next round, but from what I've seen from the Swiss, they're more than capable of mixing it with the best sides. So that would probably be the way I'd be going. But again, back them at pre-tournament at plus 6,600. So anybody who's not on the Swiss, this is the time to do it. Yeah, what about yourself? Is there anything in the outright
Well,
that's caught your eye?
I just think the Netherlands and Austria have the two easier or hopefully more straightforward for my betting purposes plays in the round of 16. Then they'll play one another. I mean, it was a really competitive 3-2 game that they played at plus 1,200 and plus 1,600 respectively. Is it worth a little bit of a play, understanding that whether it's England, Switzerland, Italy, that they can go on and win that and potentially make it to a final, and all bets are off considering what could happen at the top of the bracket. So those would be the two that I would consider, but I'd probably end up making both of them at a half unit play rather than a full unit play on both. Really quickly, in terms of player of the tournament, there really hasn't been a standout. I'm not sure if that's a market that you're even looking at right now. I do have a couple long shots I'd like to mention. The first one, if the Netherlands can go on that run and make a final, Gakpo is a player who looks really good for the Dutch. He scored a couple goals at plus 5,000. I think that a little bit of a nibble there could be worth your while. And the player that's impressed the most, and same logic, Netherlands, Austria, both of them can go deep, or one of them can go deep. Marcel Sabitzer, I don't even have him on the board, but like he's been the best player for that team. He's been outstanding over the course of the tournament. So those would be two names of potential longer shots that could work their way into the equation, and at really big numbers could be worth a little bit of a nibble. I'm not sure if you're looking at things a similar way.
Yeah, the Sabitzer angle is definitely something to look at because he's been sensational for Austria, obviously. Um, yeah, the way I would play it if I was getting involved is to back somebody from that side of the draw, quite simply because, as you've said, you might end up backing N'Golo Kante, for example, and they might get knocked out in the next round because they're playing such a strong team, or the chances are higher. Yeah, and likewise, when it comes to top scorer, I know Harry Kane is 2 goals behind right now at plus 650, but um, he's going to have potentially 3 games where England are going to be short favourites to win the game. He probably is value at plus 650. And yeah, other than that, again, just keeping the powder dry and just going to focus on the matchups that I like.
Brilliant. So we'll be back ahead of the quarterfinal ties, but there is your round of 16 preview at Euro 24. Remember, the best markets are available on Pinnacle. Best of luck and great stuff as always to Jake Osgathorpe. I am Gareth Wheeler, and enjoy the round of 16, everyone. We'll chat again next week.